Okay, Art 1-2, this is your leaf demonstration. And so if you need to see it in steps, on that second page of the Google Doc, it says leaves. It's highlighted in blue. It says to compare values, 2B or 6B. So I would say usually I'll squint my eyes and make them fuzzy and look at my image. And I look at like, okay, how dark is that leaf, compared to everything else? It's pretty dark. It's one of the darker areas in the whole still life. So I would say 6B pencil. And it says value map highlights, veins, and shadows, which we pretty much already did. And then it says to look at each part of the object and compare the range of value. Okay. So I'm going to move my piece of paper to cover up the glass so that I'm not messing up what we just spent so long doing. I am going to kind of outline the edge of the leaf, not heavy and dark, but just to get a clean edge. And it is darker along the top edges anyway. And it's darker than the glass that's behind it, so I definitely want to get a little darker on that edge. Actually, it's darker all the way around. Maybe I am just going to outline it. I hate to outline things. Do not outline everything. But it does have darker edges everywhere, so go with it. Okay, so then I'm looking at the darkest part. So I'm going to match the outline, and this is off padding. It's such a small area. Most of what we're going to do for this leaf is off padding anyway, because we want the texture. We don't want it to be totally smooth because it's speckly. Okay, and then I'm going to kind of fade in. So I got, I'm working in the areas that we value mapped when we first drew it. Matching the line, fading it in so it doesn't look outlined. Okay, fading in my outline all the way around. Kind of gently. Okay, so then I did have that line across here where it was darker. So I'm going to kind of outline it, but not perfectly. Do a whole layer. Okay, the veins are darker, so I'm going to add a layer on the veins. Okay, so then because the leaf is fairly dark, I'm going to go back and I'm going to do a thin layer of 6B, but I'm going to kind of like scribble it a little bit so it looks, it's called scumbling, where it's controlled scribbling. Kind of how we did the clouds and the 2-point house. So I am looking at where is the speckliness really light, and I'm trying to kind of avoid that. So just to give it like a rough kind of look to start out with. All right, so I'm gonna use my medium blender. Actually, let's do the small one along the edge. That way we don't have to refine that much. So I'm fading in the outline. And we'll probably have to do 2 layers on this thing. Okay, so I did the outline with my small blender. Going back with my medium. Try not to touch the edge. Okay, kind of, so now instead of like big circles, I am going to do like little kind of like scribbly circles. Trying to keep it fairly light. And not perfectly blended. But I'm fading in the outline for sure. So I don't want it to look outlined. And I'm going to go over the veins the first time. So with any texture, you have to build up the texture. It just doesn't happen automatically. Okay, so that's our first layer. So then you're going to take, and you can use the other new pencil that you got as well. You're going to use the pencil top eraser. We are off padding, and we're going to kind of blot. Like we're going to use some pressure. So you want like a hard surface. You're going to tap and tap a little bit more where it's lighter. So we're not going to try to draw those speckles. That would be way too much. We're just giving the illusion of a speckly leaf. Be careful when I get right up to the edge, but I am going to. Okay, then I'm going to kind of tap my medium blender as well, so I have some darker speckles, especially down at the bottom or along the edge. And I feel like I need to do some lighter speckles up top. All right, then we're gonna build up some layers. So now we're gonna come back in with mechanical pencil because that leaf is really dark. Gonna get a clean edge. I'm gonna go over my veins. And then I am gonna kind of do like little controlled scribbles. So let me show you on a different piece of paper what this would look like bigger, but then we're gonna do it smaller. So I'm gonna kind of like twitch my hand and like kind of like little controlled scribbles where it's kind of splotchy looking. So that's what that would look like bigger, but I'm gonna do that on a smaller scale. So shrink it down. I'm gonna do that along the edge, fading in my outline. And so you definitely want space between your controlled scribbles because you want it to look like it's all speckly. And so I feel like this edge needs to get a little bit darker anyway on the bottom left. So I am kind of looking at like, oh, is there any like shapes I can kind of follow? You know, how far in does the speckliness go towards the veins? And then down at the tip of the leaf, I'm gonna kind of redefine my point. And I'm definitely gonna fade in that line. So I am gonna do like, I'm gonna press a little bit harder at the bottom. And I'm gonna go along this right hand edge. Yes, I am outlining, but we're gonna fade it in. So we want it to visually like very much separate from that bottle. And the separation is the value. So we don't want it to look like an outline. So I'm gonna go along the edge, but I'm pulling it in. See how it kind of curves at the top. Some speckliness that kind of fades into the veins on the right hand side. Okay, I'm going to do a little bit more at the bottom. So little kind of controlled scribbles. All right, it's looking textured. Okay, with the medium blender, I'm going to just tap. Tap, 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 tap. I'm not even going to touch the edge of this leaf, I don't think. I'm going to try not to, except for like here where it's outlined. So you're not necessarily blending, you're just smudging that controlled scribbling that you did, so it doesn't look so harsh. And I am going to blend over my veins one more time. Just a little bit. So obviously you want to be doing this in a well-lit area. Honestly, daylight is the best. So if you have a window in whatever room you're working in, sometimes it's hard like at the kitchen table because of the light above. So you do need a well-lit area or like a lamp, especially when you're doing all this tiny little detail. Okay, old school wooden pencil eraser again. And I'm gonna re-tap out the light parts, and then we're going to be done with the leaf. I'm just checking, like, is there areas where it's lighter? Okay, I'm going to tap some extra on those parts. So I am holding it pretty close to the end so I can get a lot of control and a lot of pressure with the tapping. And you're almost like blotting, like pressing, but fast. Okay, so it's not exactly that leaf, but it's pretty close. I am going to fade this part in a little bit more. It looks like an outline on that bottom side. Go back in and put in some of the darker parts that may have gotten messed up with the tapping. And I'm using old school wooden pencil because I don't want it to get much darker, but I definitely want to do some refining. Like, I feel like that vein comes down a little bit more, just kind of fades out though, and then it's darker to the right of it. So I'm just double checking my level of detail. That got a little bit dark. Okay. And then in general, I feel like it should, I'm going to tap some with my blender in here because I feel like the right hand side of the leaf is a little bit too light. When I squint my eyes and make them fuzzy and I look at my picture, it's a little bit too light in some places. So I'm just using a blender to tap. Okay, all right, we're done with the leaf. So make sure you refine, make sure it doesn't look outlined. If it does look outlined, like here it looks a little outlined in the camera, but it doesn't look like that on my paper. You can see it on the camera. I'm gonna like circular, kind of scribbly, fade that part in so that it doesn't look like a total outline. All right, good job. See you in the next video.